There are many trends shaping the security landscape. Our end users have fluid work habits, and they expect to collaborate without barriers. I'm sure many of you here are actually administrators of OneDrive, SharePoint, or Office 365, and you, on the other hand, are worried about securing access to that data. You are inundated with many complex regulations. You are inundated with a lot of management complexity. So in this session, I'll talk about what we are doing in OneDrive and SharePoint to help you meet those challenges while keeping your end users productive. My name is Kavita Kamani, and I am a lead PM on the OneDrive and SharePoint team. My focus is on security and policies. We'll talk to you about the way we approach this space, the controls that we give you, and the role that you play in securing access to your data based on your particular organization needs. We'll talk about roadmap. Many of the things that I'm going to show you today are coming by the end of the year. We'll talk about where we're going as well. And hopefully, we'll have lots of time left for Q&A. You guys can stare at this screen. This is a lot of staggering numbers. But I'm sure many here are actually one of 143 million Americans who were affected by the Equifax breach recently. If you were, you probably feel the pinch firsthand. When that happens, you lose trust. And so we take this responsibility very seriously. Our promise to you is that we will provide you the industry-leading protection for your data. We do that across different layers. We do that across the physical layer, and we protect our data centers through advanced surveillance, and we have a lot of processes and biometrics, et cetera, to whoever has access to that data, to those buildings. We do that over logical and operational layer by automating most of our processes. We do that also by giving you controls that you can set on top of it. Our baseline protection is already pretty advanced, but we give you the ability to add additional control on top. And then we give you some insights so you know what's going on in your organization. And finally, we are keeping up to date with all the evolving compliance requirements, so you don't have to worry about it. In this session, I'll focus primarily on the access and sharing policies. And so I'll show you how we approach this space, what policies exist today, and what's coming. So let's dive right in. Our biggest challenge is actually finding a balance. Finding a balance between those of you here who are IT administrators. You want security and control. The end users, who are both your customers and my customers, they want to be productive, and they want usability. In terms of the solution needs, in Microsoft 365, across Azure AD, across Office 365 Security and Compliance Center, and the SharePoint Admin Center, we give you a ton of controls. You need to be able to discover what controls are available to you and express them based on the needs of your organization. You need to be able to pilot it then to a few set of users to see how the rollout is going to be and whether it's meeting the needs that you have. And finally, because these are so important, you need to be able to audit who is making changes to policies, especially if you're in a bigger organization where you have more than one global admin or more than one SharePoint admin. And you need to be able to analyze whether the policy is having the right effect. On the end user side, if I, as an end user, get blocked, I want to know, why am I getting blocked? If there is a reasonable security thing that because of which I'm getting blocked, I want to know that so that I don't feel that the product is broken. I also may have a valid business justification to do the action. So for example, if I'm trying to share a file externally, if you tell me why you're not letting me share that file externally, and it makes sense to me, I might be OK with it. But I might still have a valid reason, so I want to be able to override and share the file anyway. And then finally, I want to be able to give feedback so that this is an iterative process between the IT admins and the end users. We also know that one size doesn't fit all. Protecting my travel itinerary for Ignite is very different than protecting the vision document I write for my area. We have embraced conditional access heavily. So we give you policies that are based on the device that the user is coming from. We want your users who are on corporate managed devices to have the best experience. We do it based on the location they're coming from. When they're on your corporate network or they're VPN'd in, you've already put in a bunch of other security balances in place. So we want them to have full access. Whereas if they're coming from an airport kiosk, airport network, where it's not as secure, it's OK if your organization has a security posture that says, I want to give a different kind of access in those scenarios. Also, some users in your organization will have a higher risk posture. For example, your senior leadership teams may want a different set of security policies for them than the rest of your end users. And also, it depends on the app the user is coming from. So we want to give you a rich set of policies that are dependent on all of these conditions. Also, we know that some policies make sense at the tenant scope, and they apply to all of your data. But other policies may make sense based on the sensitivity of the data. So we want to give you policies at the site scope to protect the more sensitive or confidential sites, or at the file scope to protect your sensitive data from leaving the organization. Our access and sharing policies are across a spectrum. And we don't want to do just an allow or block, but we want to find that balance in the middle, keeping in mind that we want to give you the control that lets you protect leakage of your organizational data. So let's look at how you can secure access to your data. Securing access based on device, you can take advantage of one of three things that we do here. One is you can block all access on unmanaged devices. You can do that in Azure AD today. If you have Azure AD conditional access, you can say that I don't want my users to have any access when they're on a personal computer, which is not managed by my company. And that may be OK for this security posture of some of you guys. But again, when you block your users from doing something and you make them less productive, they usually find a different way to get it done anyway, in which case you will not have the ability to manage their usage. So what we want to be able to do is give you limited browser access on unmanaged devices and block the ability to leak content off, meaning we block download, print, and sync, but we still allow your users to be productive on a browser. The other thing we are investing in is shorter sessions on unmanaged devices. So I want my users, for example, to be able to have full access on a hotel kiosk. But I'm worried that they will leave their session logged in. So we've given you the ability to detect idle sessions and automatically sign them out. And we'll drill into each of these in a minute. The limited browser access policy on unmanaged devices allows you to prevent leakage of data on unmanaged devices. But it allows your users to be productive. We do that by giving you browser-only access and blocking all apps access on unmanaged devices. And we also block all the controls, such as download, print, or sync. And I'll demo this in a minute. We have this policy at the tenant scope as well as at the site scope. This policy has actually been in first release, which is our preview program, since earlier this year. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got was, tenant scope is too broad. I don't want to give browser access to all sites, but there are some sensitive sites that I want to apply this policy to. So thank you for those of you who've given us that feedback. That's now available in first release as well. You can also limit this to specific users. You can go into Azure AD and scope this policy to specific users or security groups. The controls we give you, and this is also a piece of feedback that we got as part of our preview program, we released with view-only access in the browser. But based on feedback, we've now added the ability to edit in the browser. And that opens up scenarios such as collaborating with guest users outside your organization who are almost always going to come in on unmanaged devices. And we also give you a control that you can choose whether you want to allow downloading of files that cannot be previewed in the browser. So let's take a look. For all my demos, I'm actually using 2 laptops. This one's going to be my admin laptop. I've also set it up to be a compliant device for the tenant that I have. And this is going to be my user laptop. So let's take a look at how it looks on the admin side. Can you guys see this? Great. So one of the other pieces of feedback we got in the preview program is this page is a lot cleaner now. It used to look like a hybrid of a help page and a settings page. So we told you how to go create manually policies in Azure AD, then come back and set this setting here. We've cleaned that up, and we automate the creation of policies in Azure. So I'll just show you that quickly here. By default, you have full access from desktop apps, mobile apps, and the web on unmanaged devices. But if you choose to do, and also I'll just show you this. This is the Microsoft Azure portal, and as you can see, I don't have any policies here that are created. But take a look carefully. When I choose allow limited web-only access and I hit OK, it's going to take a second here to create these policies in Azure. You will see that we create 2 policies for you in Azure automatically. One of those policies will say, apps require managed devices, so that by using that, on unmanaged devices, you will have no app access. The other policy says, use browser on any kind of device, but let SharePoint decide what level of control to give. So SharePoint then uses that hint and then blocks a bunch of controls. OK. Let me just refresh this page so I can show you the policies being created. Fingers crossed. OK, believe me, this was working this morning. Let's give it one more shot. What is supposed to happen is that when I click allow limited web-only access, magically 2 new policies are supposed to show up here. And essentially what we're doing is simplifying the way you create these policies. Let me switch over to another tenant where I have this policy at the tenant level. So at the tenant level, I'm giving full access. But I've decided I want to protect the more sensitive sites. So what I can do is leave it on at the tenant level, but specifically go to one of my sites, which is the legal site, which is a more sensitive site, and set the conditional access policy on that site to be limited web access. So I run this commandlet. And this policy, we have the site level granularity we only expose in PowerShell. Over time, what we're going to do is give you a UX that lets you tie classification of sites with policies automatically. So let me switch over to the user laptop here to show you that in action. So on this tenant now, I'm opening a few sites here. The legal site, as you can see, is an internal-only site. So on this site, you see this yellow bar that says your organization doesn't allow you to download, print, or sync. And if you see on the document bar here, we've actually disabled download and sync for you. So users cannot do that. And when I open one of these files, it'll open up in the Office web apps, and I can edit. Let's try that again. Yeah, looks like the demo gods are not being friendly to me today. Let me show you how we've blocked things like save as. So the only thing you can do is save a copy online, but not locally save a copy. We've also blocked print. So for example, if the user was trying to print this document, they can't do that. So essentially what we've done is the legal site is a more sensitive site. And when they access this site, we've blocked download, we've blocked print and sync. But the FY18 strategy site or the human resources site are not sensitive sites, so you have full access on these sites. So this allows you as an IT admin to protect the most sensitive resources in your organization. In terms of securing kiosk machines or public or shared devices, we want to be able to give you the ability to set shorter sessions on those devices. This allows you to secure access by signing out idle sessions, and it allows users to be fully productive on those devices. You can obviously use that in conjunction with the previous policy, so they have browser-only access, but they still get signed out, or you can choose to have those independently. The way we do this is we'll allow you to configure session lengths for sessions that don't have the keep me signed in thing checked. Because on a shared device, you need to educate your users not to remember their password and keep them signed in. And the way you can also enforce this is if you are using ADFS, you can actually define rules that let you just hide the box, and you can automatically treat corporate devices or domain joined devices as keep me signed in true. So that's another way you can manage that. But we rely on that signal, and then we say, OK, you've configured a shorter session length, so I'm going to detect if the user's gone idle, and then sign them out. This policy is only at the tenant scope, and we give you two controls. One is the time after which we warn the user. So if they have a genuine need to extend their session, they can just hit continue and go on, and the control to sign them out. Now, for this particular policy, this is more like the bank websites. I log in, and if I'm idle and you see that dialog, so think about it like that. Let me show you how this works. I hope I've given enough food to the demo gods so I can now focus on having a spectacular demo. So again, using a commandlet, you basically set SPO browser idle sign out. And all you have to do is two parameters. One is warn after and sign out after. So that we can talk through and move past this, I've just set these values really small. So I've just said warn me after 10 seconds and then sign me out after 25. You obviously don't want to do that. Because one of the things this policy will do is keep prompting your users and lead to user frustration. So make sure you set this to reasonable. We recommend 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 6 hours or something like that, that you feel comfortable with, that helps you protect access on kiosk machines. So once I set this policy, let me show you how that looks on a user machine. So I'm going to log into my tenant here. And I'm not going to select keep me signed in, because this is a shared device out in my hotel, or it's a device that I share with other members of my family. And I hit sign in, and you will notice that in a few seconds here, you will notice a warning dialog pop up. And I can choose to hit continue on that dialog, or I can, if I don't do anything, I'll get automatically signed out. For those of you who don't have ADFS, or you have federated providers such as Ping, you can also set up the rules around when keep me signed in is selected. So you see that dialog just popped up and says you're about to be signed out of Office 365. One of the other things that we're doing is very consciously is our error messages to the end users. They very clearly say, it's your organizational policy is kind of forcing you down this path, and this is why, so that they are very aware, and then it automatically signs me out of this session. Thank you, demo gods. Thank you. It should only go, it should not go south from here. Just keep praying that. OK, securing access based on location. There's two policies you can use here. So typically, we see our financial services industries folks using these policies. You can either block sign-in from untrusted network locations. You can set that in Azure AD conditional access. You can also block access. So for users that are already signed in, so scenarios, I'm in my corporate network, I'm signed in, I close my laptop, I go to the airport, I try to access. My sign-in session could be long, but at the time of access, I will get blocked. This has been in production since Q1 of this year. And this lets you secure access from trusted IPs or from VPNs. And for those financial customers who are still thinking about whether they should move to the cloud, this has actually helped us unblock the move to the cloud for those customers. This is a very restrictive policy, because what could also happen, this means your admin, if they are at a kiosk location, will also be locked out. So there are reasons for customers to use this policy, and they can use it, but know that this is a pretty restrictive policy. We validate the client IP against the whitelist at access time, and this is available at the tenant scope, and you essentially can configure what are the allowed IP ranges. I won't do a demo of this because this is policy that's been in production, but the configuration is extremely simple. You just specify the client IPs, and the end user gets a message that says, due to organizational policies, you can't sign in from this location. You can also secure access from mobile apps. And this lets you secure corporate data for users' personal mobile devices. Most users may not like that you manage their personal mobile phone, so they won't let you use MDM. But they may be OK for you to manage just the apps, especially when they sign in to your corporate SharePoint Online. And this allows them to bring their own devices. And we do this by integrating with Intune MAM or other third-party EMM, enterprise mobility providers. You can do this at the tenant scope or for specific users. And you can have a lot of rich controls like blocking download or copy and paste. And I'll show this in a minute to you. But essentially, you allow full access from these apps, but you prevent leakage of data outside of those apps. OK. You guys can see? Yeah. So I'm going to sign into the OneDrive app here. Give me a second to type my password without showing it on the screen, because I do want the rest of my demos to go well without anyone messing with admin policies. All right. OK, so now you can see that this app is prompting me for a PIN, because my IT admin has set a MAM policy on this that says I want to require a PIN. I can show you my PIN because I'm not showing you this device. All right. And when as a user, I try to access my files, I can access those files. And let's say I try to copy some text from here. And I go into an unmanaged app, such as the Mail app, the iOS native Mail app. When I try to paste this content, I'm not allowed to do that. It tells me that my organization's data cannot be pasted here. So essentially, what you've done is, this is my personal device. I'm using it to access corporate data, because I want to be productive on the go. But you, as an IT admin, are worried about leakage of data, and you can just do that even in the BYOD case. That's another demo that didn't fail. So I should get an applause. All right. In terms of setting this up, let me quickly show you how to set this up. You can also do this in the OneDrive, in the Azure AD portal. But in the OneDrive Admin Center, we've actually made it super easy for you to just do it via the OneDrive Admin Center directly. So you can just deploy this policy, and this also automatically creates MAM policies in Azure. And you can have controls such as blocking copy and paste of data, or requiring a PIN, and so on. This is a policy also we've had in production. So it's a good way for you to secure access and allow users to bring their own devices. OK, securing access based on users. So this is where you can protect your more high-risk users, such as Satya and his leadership team, for example, have access to a lot of sensitive content. So we can have policies that let other users in the organization have full access, but we can limit their access on unmanaged devices, because leakage of data for things that they have access to is a lot more serious. And you can just do this directly in Azure AD for any policy that gets created. You can scope it down to specific security groups. You can do things such as requiring MFA. So you can ask them for a second factor of authentication. You can do things such as requiring a stronger password. And you can, as an admin, you can also look at if there is any suspicious activity reported, or set up alerts, and I'll show how the auditing stuff works later. You can revoke, as an admin, you can revoke all the sessions for that user. So it would sign out that user from all of the devices they're in the case that the user account has been compromised. Wrapping up the session on the part on access policies, best practices for you, please balance security with usability. Because if you reserve the most restrictive policies for the most at-risk users or sensitive content, you'll be better off. Users expect to have flexibility. Users expect to be productive. And so leverage when I talked about there's a spectrum of policies and you can choose a very, very black or white approach and allow or deny it, but find that middle ground. Because we give you policies to find that middle ground and allow your users to be productive. For the idle session sign-out policy, it's in preview. We're looking for customers to test it out and give us feedback. Let us know. Let me know at the end of the session if you want to be signed up for it. And you should use the Intune MAM policies for securing access to your mobile devices. Let's move on to how you limit overexposure of content by sharing controls. The first question that most admins will have is, should I allow external sharing or not? And your answer could be no. But know that what's going to happen is your users are going to figure out a way to share. And they will use something that looks like a box. And they will put the content there, and they will share it, and you will have absolutely no admin access. You can clap if you got my joke. OK, so we don't recommend this. And obviously, we can't recommend you to go this route too. We can't recommend that you don't have any, you don't block external sharing if we don't give you the right set of controls. So what we've done is we've given you a lot of control. We've given you control over sharers in your organization. We've given you a lot of control over the recipients who are outside of your organization. And we've given you control over the kind of content that can be shared. For the sharers, you can say things like who can share. So for example, you can have a set of users that you don't want to allow external sharing, but you don't want to subject that to all of your users in your organization. You can control who they can share to, so on the recipient side, who the targeted user is. You can also control the types of links that they can share. You can, for the recipients, the receivers of those shared links, you can control how they prove themselves, how they prove their identity, whether they even need to prove their identity. And what can they do with the link that they got? Can they just view the document, or can they also edit it? Can they reshare that document? You can also control how long they have access. You can have expiration policies on those links. So there's a lot of control. So think about when you go the route of taking a big hammer and saying, I will not allow external sharing. You also have control over what content is shared. You can protect the most sensitive sites or the most sensitive files with things like site-level sharing policies and things like DLP. These things are available today. So I hope many of you here, if you have sharing turned off, you will go back and take this and educate yourself and see where you can find that balance for your organization. There is, in the admin center, who can share in your organization. So you have the ability to allow users to share, or only users in specific security groups to share content. You can also talk about who they can share to. So you can say, I want to allow sharing only to existing guest users in my organization, which I, as an admin, may have auto-approved or gone through some kind of NDA process and created managed guest accounts. Or you can say, I want to allow sharing to anyone on the planet, depending on whatever the security posture of your organization is. You can do that per site as well. So some sites could be a lot more flexible, and some not. You can choose the default link that appears. Most users are going to go with the defaults. So even just picking the right default gives you a lot of flexibility there and a sense of control. You can limit external sharing to specific domains. So for example, if you have partner domains that you know your users are collaborating with, you can put them in the allow list, and you can block things like Gmail, Hotmail, and all the public domains. Some of these settings will affect how the end user dialog shows up for the users when they're sharing. That's what you want. You want the right defaults showing up there. You want the right controls reflected at the time of sharing. In terms of recipients, you can prevent them from sharing things they don't own, or that they have to prove that they own the email. They can't just use any other email to get in to access that file. So they should accept sharing invitations using the invited email. You can choose expiration policies for links. And you can see what can they do with it. Can they view it, edit it, so on. In terms of sensitive content, you can protect sensitive sites by setting most of these policies at the site level. So you can have a flexible tenant level policy and take the sites that are highly classified or highly sensitive and set more restrictive policies for them. And that you do that today in the admin center by doing it per site like that. I know our admin experience is a little 70s. A new admin experience is coming. I'll show you that. And you can protect sensitive files with DLP. You can do things like look for specific patterns or out-of-box sensitive types. You can also create custom sensitive types. So for example, if in your organization, we say for Microsoft Confidential, you can look for that pattern in files and get those files marked as sensitive and take actions like blocking sharing, blocking external access for those files. You can also give users a policy tip that tells them why they were being blocked. You can allow them to override if they have a business justification. So there's a lot of flexibility. And use that to protect the files that are more sensitive. The sharing, the admin UX is getting a facelift. This is what's coming in the OneDrive Admin Center later this year. And the SharePoint Admin Center is also getting a facelift. And so it'll be easier as an admin, instead of seeing all those checkboxes, for you to see where is the slider for my organization and choose the right level of access and sharing. In terms of the end user sharing experience, I am super excited about this because end users, you have to educate them to do the right thing. By having the same share dialog appear in all experiences, whether it is all the Office Rich clients, all the Office web clients, the mobile apps, even in the File Explorer or even in the Sync client, you teach users to do something, they learn to do something, and it's the same thing everywhere. The sharing dialog reflects the admin policies. So things like whether the recipient can edit or whether the links expire shows up here and they can set that. In terms of the different link types, you see how the anyone link has a checkbox here. So that is the default link type I have chosen as an admin. But users can select how they want to share. So anyone is a way for sharing to anyone on the planet. I give a link to you. You decide who else should have access. I don't decide who else has access. I just created the link, and you can, it's like an email. You can forward it to anybody. People in my company is the best way you can share content within the organization. So I send it to you. You can forward it to anyone, but not on anyone on the planet, but anyone as long as they're in my company. People with existing access, this is just a pointer. This doesn't add any more ACLs. This doesn't add any more permissions. This is essentially, I give you a link, and you'll be able to access if you already had access, which could be through membership, which could be because I shared the file with you previously, which could be because you had access to the folder where the file lives. And finally, you can choose to share with specific people, and you can access only if I added you in the list of people I'm sharing this with. And this is the way you would share with people outside the company or even within the company, but limit access to only those folks. The sharing dialog also has integration with the policy tips in DLP. So for example, here, if an admin set a policy for blocking sharing of sensitive files, users will be able to see right there, you can't share this because this contains sensitive information. They can see what sensitive information. They can choose to report that to the admin if they think it was an error in terms of the auto match. They can even override the policy if the admin has configured the policy in that way. In terms of the recipient, if the recipient gets an anyone link, which is basically doesn't require them to prove who they are, because anyone links work for anyone on the planet, then they don't have to prove themselves. But if they get a secure link, they have to prove themselves. Secure links in the past, the way you prove your identity is by signing in with a Microsoft account or signing in with an Azure AD account. We lost a lot of people here because nobody understands what these things are. And the third very small option there was create a new account. We lost even more people if they thought they had to go create an account. And all they're trying to do is access a file. So we've really simplified this, and this week we announced a new way for recipients to prove themselves, which is without creating an account, they just get a one-time passcode to their email address. And as an admin, I can control how often recipients have to re-attest that they still own that email. So for example, if I'm sharing something super sensitive to someone at NASA, and I know they should only access it while they're still employed at NASA, my admin in that scenario may set a more restrictive policy, such as they need to prove their email address every 15 days. So within the 15-day period, they don't have to re-enter the passcode to access that document, but after that period, they will be asked to re-enter the passcode. Let's take a look at all that. I just talked about a bunch of stuff. So in terms of, let me move over to the user laptop here. This is one of my sites in my organization. And let's say I want to share this file. As I talked about, you get this standard share dialog everywhere. And you can choose to share that file to specific people. I'm going to choose someone who's outside of my organization. I'm going to share that link out. Okay. So the person I shared to now, this is the experience that they get. They get an email with the sharing link. Okay. So it says, I shared a file with them. When they hit open on this, in the past, you would have seen that ugly dialog. Sign in with an MSA or an Azure AD, or go create an account, or go ask 10 other people what this even means. But now it says, OK, to you open this link, you just need to enter the passcode. And it says that it was sent to the account that the file was shared with. So I can go back to my email, and there's another email here waiting for me with the one-time passcode. So I can take that and enter this, and I should go right into the document. So this is huge. You can clap. We literally measured how many people we lose in this funnel. How many people get the link? How many people end up actually accessing the document? And so this was one of the biggest investments we made in simplifying sharing and access. Let's also take, this is getting rolled out by the end of the year. All right, so let's take a look at another way where you can prevent sharing of content. So you can have content labeled in your organization, and you can have policies that say if a file is labeled in a particular way, such as a file has a sensitive label, then block sharing. And that is extremely powerful because you can label files multiple ways. You can ask your users to manually label files, and I know nobody's going to do it, and you're going to have a bunch of unlabeled content. You can also have automatic labeling. So with DLP, you can look for patterns, and you can auto-apply a label to a particular file if it matches a certain set of criteria. And then you can have policies like block external sharing of that file. So let me show you. This is something that is a little vaporware right now. But I'll show you where we're going with this. So I could create a label like super confidential. And you'll see some new options when we finish rolling this out. You will see that content can be labeled and have policies such as protection, retention, or things like watermarking. So let me go to this. And you can see how you have things like show policy tip to users if they send or share labeled content. So this is another way where you can either set sharing policies on the site or on a document, or do that based on metadata such as label. Let me show you if a file does have sensitive content, how it looks like when I try to share that file. All right. So here is one of the sites I have where I've set a DLP policy that says, if you find things like social security numbers in this file, then treat it as sensitive. It's sensitive customer information. My employees should not be sharing it outside the organization. So you can see this little glyph, and you can see on the info pane the fact that this has sensitive information. But let's say I ignore that and I try to share this file. I'll share this file with the same person, same external user that we was just successfully able to share a file with. So I can say share it to Litware Corp. By the way, the only way I'm going to know that you were paying attention is I see a whole bunch of junk mail to the Litware Corp email after this. Okay. So this item contains sensitive information, and it can't be shared with people outside your organization. So it tells you exactly, that you can't share it. We used to have this policy to block guest access. But by doing it at share time, you're actually preventing it earlier in the pipeline. And it tells you that this is financial data, and this is a message the admin has customized here to say why they have this policy in this organization and what was the specific thing that matched. So in this case, it matched credit card numbers, and they have set the policy so the users can either report an issue in case there was a bad pattern match here, or they can even override the policy and send it anyway. And this is rolling out right now for you to use. Let's take a look at how that rule was configured in the admin center. Okay. So I'm in the security and compliance center. We do a lot of work with the Azure AD team when it comes to conditional access policies. We do a lot of work with the information protection and security and compliance center. And this is one of those things where some content is sensitive. It doesn't matter whether it's in a file in SharePoint or whether it's in an email in Exchange. It's sensitive. It doesn't matter where the data lives. So you go to the Security and Compliance Center and set policies across all of the Office 365 workloads. So I've already created this policy around financial data. But if you were to go create a new policy on the fly, there is a ton of out-of-box sensitive types that already exist for you. You can also create a custom sensitive type. So for example, you might say if a document contains Microsoft Confidential or Microsoft Internal or specific patterns that you have, you can use that as a way to detect sensitive files. I'm going to just pick one of the out-of-box types here. So US financial data automatically detects things like routing numbers, credit card numbers. Let me just create a test policy here. And I can choose to scope this to specific workloads in Office 365 or across everywhere. And then I can say things like detect when this content is shared across with people outside my organization. You can also use a bunch of advanced settings like block access, not just at sharing time. And that's it. So it's a very simple to use admin experience, which lets you define what these sensitive types are and then have actions associated with them. And over time, these actions will become richer. Things like encrypting a document when you share outside the organization. Okay. So that was a quick whirlwind tour of some external sharing policies that you can have. In terms of best practices, again, find that balance between security and usability. Make sure that your users are not unnecessarily blocked from doing their work. Reserve the most restrictive policies for the most sensitive content and the most at-risk users. Let them share safely because we provide you sharing policies across the spectrum. We give you a lot of richness, and you can control who can share, who can receive, what they have to do, what they can do with your content. Now, once you have these policies, how do you get some insights and understand what's going on? For IT admins, they want to know who's sharing in my organization, what is being shared, They want to detect anomalies such as are some users just doing a lot of external sharing. They want to know how many policy matches they're getting, especially with DLP, so they can tune that, because if it's all about pattern matches, over time that gets more and more mature. And users want to know, I've shared my content, I don't remember who I shared it to, who has access to my content. They want to know, I shared the file, did they even access it? Who actually used my content? And then why was I blocked? So in terms of the admin figuring out what activity is happening, you can use auditing. We have auditing built into the Security and Compliance Center, and you have a lot of rich events for you to see. And you can also set up alerts. You can set up an audit log search. You can go pretty fancy with this. You can get notified when specific activities happen and then take action. I'll show this, but you get a list of activities. So there's a lot of file activities, a lot of sharing activities, bunch of out-of-box activity types that you can look for. And then you get a list of results, which are across, if you're in a hybrid environment, it's even across your on-premises and online setup. And then you can set up rules, and this sends notifications to the admins that you've provided. So in terms of DLP, you can understand with graphs how many policies are matching, and you can over time go and refine those policies. You can also get false positives if users are giving you feedback about it or overriding the policy. The new SharePoint Admin Center, there is a session later today about this, but a lot of what I showed you will move over to the new modern Admin Center. The current page really looks archaic, and so we understand that. We love our admins, so we are investing in beautifying a lot of experiences for our end users as well as admins. But the new SharePoint Admin Center is not going to be a static page like today's Admin Center. It will have rich reports. So in this particular case, there are reports about what's happening with my files, what files are being shared externally, and who's sharing, et cetera. You can be notified as an end user what users are doing with content that you've shared. Admin has to turn this on. So you can, for OneDrive, you can turn on this thing that says, when other users share my files, or when other users access my file, send me a notification. And as an end user, you get rich emails from which you can directly from within the email, you can actually remove access if that's not what you intended. So you can immediately take action. You can be notified when your content is shared and when it's accessed. You can also do things like, you can see who all you've given access to and just stop sharing with them directly from within the info pane at a per file basis. In terms of, if I'm an end user, I can go to my site and I can get awareness when content is being shared externally. So we are building a lot of site analytics for end users or for site owners for them to see what files are being externally shared. So this is pop out from one particular file and just look across your site to see what files are being shared. You can give access to end users, rich file views here, where I can see things like how many users have accessed my content. You can see, again, a list of users as an end user on a per file basis. You can, this is coming for OneDrive first, and then for SharePoint. You can also get policy tips like I showed you when I'm blocked from doing something. You can provide feedback to your admin. And all this is integrated into the core sharing experiences and the core experiences that your users already know about. Let's take a look at some of this stuff. Okay, so this is the Security and Compliance Center. And you can come here under Search and Investigation and do an audit log search. So this is where I was talking about how there's a ton of activity types that you can choose from. So there are a bunch of file and page activities. There is folder activities, sharing activity. Since this session is about sharing and access, you can choose all of these things. For example, you want to know when someone created a sharing invitation. You want to know when they removed an anonymous link. You can select specific one of these or all of these. And then you can give a date range. And you can search for all the activities that happened. You can take a look and see if there's an anomaly, such as if a particular user is oversharing, or if a particular user is deleting a lot of content. And then you know maybe the account has been compromised, or the user is not acting in an integral way. you can see all of these activities across on-prem as well as your online deployment. And then you can go here and set alerts for those things. So I can go here and manage alerts, and I can create, if something looks fishy and you're like, next time I want to know before it happens when it happens, you can set alerts about this. And so I can set test alert here, and I can do conditions, the same set of conditions that I got there. I can choose the activities for alerts, so I can do sharing activities, for instance. And I can do that for a specific set of users. So if I'm worried about my senior leadership team versus all of my users, I can customize that. And I can send this to all of the admins in my organization or to myself. And then I would get one of those rich emails which says this is what happened. In terms of the DLP reports, that's available right in the data loss prevention dashboard. So you can take a look here on how many policy matches that happened across different workloads and what false positives happened, and then you can customize your policies. Let's take a look at the end user experience. So we looked at the policy tips before, but I can do things like, just on the info pane here, I can see who has access to my files, what activity has happened. I can manage access to that file, which could include things like stopping sharing, or I can actually just remove a link. For example, if I created a company shareable link, I can just remove it while I'm still working on the document and I'm not ready to share it broadly. So those are some of the things that you can get. And back to the policies, while we give you the controls that you need, and you should use the right set of controls that make you feel safe and secure, we want you to find that balance. And we strive to give you policies across different conditions like device, location, user, and app. We strive to give you policies across different scopes like tenant scope, site scope, or user scope. And then we hope that that meets the needs that you have in terms of securing your organization and feeling that our cloud is actually the most safest place for your data. In terms of roadmap, all of the stuff that I talked about today in demos, either it's already available or it's coming by the end of the year. Where we are going is automated policies based on classification. So you saw that today, for example, on the legal site, I manually said, OK, the site has a particular label, and I had to go run a PowerShell as an admin to go set that policy. But imagine a world where you can say, if a user puts this label on a content or a site, automatically apply these policies at provisioning time. And so that's where we're going to make it easier to manage, because we know this is a lot of stuff. And one of the next challenges after we give you the control is, please make it easy for me to understand what policies are being used and how to apply those policies. The new SharePoint Admin Center, there's a detailed session today. You should go take a look. But next year, we'll have that in GA. There'll be a period of time where the new SharePoint Admin Center hasn't reached full parity with the old one. So we'll give you a way to switch back and forth. But we want to get to a point where that has all the functionality that we believe gives the admin a way to manage in a modern way. And then finally, we will give you a richer OneDrive admin homepage as well. The OneDrive admin homepage today already has that modern look and feel to it. And so over time, both of these admin pages will continue to evolve and give you an easy way to look at what's being set in your organization and to make some changes. Those are some sessions I recommend. There's a session deep on DLP that goes into specifically how to create sensitive types and how to create custom sensitive types. There's the admin center session. There is the one that Navjot did, which talks about beyond just these policies, what else are we doing to secure your content. Please take a look at this after the event. And then there's a bunch of resources. So one of the things, as I told you, we leverage Azure AD for some policies. We leverage Security and Compliance Center for something. We have some policies natively in the SharePoint Admin Center. And I know it's too much. So one of the things we're trying to do is have solution-focused guidance. And one of the links there is takes a look at how you secure different levels of data or different kinds of content in your organization across all of these things. And that's a great resource. We actually took an example of how a political campaign would be secured, and we take that as a case study, and then we set up exactly what all policies you need. So take a look, because it might give you some ideas, and try to map your scenario to one of those. There's a lot of other content here. You will have access to this after the session. And again, there's a lot Jeff talked about. We're going to be at Vegas in May, where we'll talk about the next set of investments and our vision going forward. We hope to see some of you there. And join the community, and please give me feedback on this session. We take that very seriously, and we try to make sure that your time is valuable, because I know there's a ton of sessions going on at the same time, and it's a big funnel of information that you're getting this week. Questions?
One of the questions, is this on?
Yes.
One of the questions I have, I work for a private company, so I understand all of the external sharing, internal sharing, and those are all great. Is there any way that you can control, like the screen sharing, taking a picture of the screen? So a document is up and you take a picture of the screen. Is there any way to limit that? Because that's been one of the things that we've been struggling with.
You can take your users' phones at the door. No, I mean that's an education thing. That is an education thing. It's also, it's
so
mostly.
There's nothing on the roadmap. I mean, I don't know how you would prevent that, or.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, the policies, we go quite far in terms of preventing accidental leakage of data, and sometimes also malicious leakage of data. But at some point, there is a line in terms of the flexibility your users have, and if they walk in with a phone and take a picture of their screen, there's not much we can do about it.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
But you can do something at a physical security layer with it, right? You can have rules for who gets to bring. They only bring corporate devices into the premises.
Okay, thank you.
For sharing with the access code, can you do that at the higher level, like the folder, document library, or site level?
Which one, sorry?
When you're sharing with an external user using a code, can it be beyond the file level?
So you can do that at the tenant level, at the site level, as well as at the file level. At the folder level, you can say things like the external users cannot share files or folders they don't own, but you cannot set sharing policies today at the folder level. You can do that based on labels, for example, going forward. And when that happens, then yes, you can do that at a folder level as well.
Okay, and then what does that user look like, that external user with the code? How do you show, that they changed the file, or, how do they show as far as permissions go?
If the external user is signing in and we know their identity, then we just, in the manage access page, like you see who has access. If they're managed guest users and they have an account that we can reason about, then you can see that. If they are one of those people who received an anyone link or received one of these one-time passcode things, then we don't really know that they have accessed it. So we won't have that visibility. But for all the other cases where they're actually signing in with an account, we actually would know about it.
They sign in with their email address. We display it in the user experience, and we track it pervasively.
Okay. So Greg here, who's the expert on sharing and runs the engineering team for sharing, says that for the one-time passcode case as well, because we know the email, we can show you who's been accessing the file.
Hey, for the managed devices, can you use your own MDM solution to determine if it's an unmanaged or a managed PC, tablet? Or do you have to use Intune for that at the very start of the session?
So the managed devices piece that I talked about, there's two things that make a device managed in terms of that policy. One is the device domain joined, or is it compliant? So if it's domain joined, then it's not about Intune. But if it's compliant, then yes, Intune tells us if the device is compliant.
Okay, and can you hook that into your own MDM if we're not using Intune?
What's that?
Can you use your own MDM to determine if it's compliant or not if we're not using Intune?
Yeah, so AAD conditional access actually works with other third-party MDMs as well.
Great.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi. So when we share the site or the library with the users with the PIN code, do they become part of the tenant and we can share other sites, with them?
I'm not following that.
So when we add somebody, like when we share a link and they get a PIN code, they log into our tenant to look at the file. So will they be the part of our Azure AD tenant, and will we be able to resolve them in other sites?
Yeah, so they don't have an account in Azure AD.
So they will still have to sign up if they want to, go the tenant-wide access. It's just for that particular file they are getting the PIN
It's
code.
just that particular file that's being shared. If I share a different file with that same user, they will be prompted
Okay,
for
different,
access.
or they'll have to create different PIN code, right?
They will get a new PIN code for every file that they're being shared with. And depending on what that admin setting was, how often they need to reattest for the same file. For example, if the admin said reattest after 30 days, for the same file, they'll be required to get a new PIN. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
In the email with the code, it's written that this code is available for 15 minutes. What does it exactly mean?
Sorry?
When you share something externally, you will receive as a recipient this code, and it's written there that the code is valid for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So that's because the admin set an expiration policy on the link, that this link is only valid for a specific period of time.
So does it mean that when I share something, then the recipient has 15 minutes to open this file and enter the code? Or
Are you talking about expiration?
Email a code to a recipient of a secure sharing link. If that code isn't entered within 15 minutes, then the code itself will expire.
okay,
If they re-access the link, we'll send a new code.
okay, got it.
We need to limit the lifetime of the code we send, as well as the number of failed attempts that a user can make to make sure that we're really only authenticating the person.
So basically what you say that this expiration will start once the user
So
opens
there's
the
two
file.
things. There is two.
Mail the code. Once our system mails the code, as soon as they access the link, we'll mail a code, and that's when the clock.
Okay.
And then once they enter the code, then the duration of that session is determined
Yeah.
by the policies that you set, which control it.
Yeah.
And how-
It's like, you go to some websites and says, I'm going to send a code to your mobile device, and if you don't use it for a certain period of time, and you try again, they send you a new code. So it's kind of like that. The thing I was talking about is you can also have expiration policies on links. So that is separate. So there's two pieces of expiration here that we're talking about. One is how long that code that we send you is valid, and the second is how long that somebody has to have access to the link.
And if this user wants to re-access the file, then how can he or she do it?
How can they reshare it?
How can this user re-access the file?
Just click on the link in the email that they have. If they created an account, they should be able to get a shared with me view of all the files that were shared with them. But if they don't have an account, then they just have to go back to the email and click on the link to the file.
That's correct. Maybe I can add one thing to that. The idea is that because the
You want to take a microphone here? Sure.
Just add one note to that. The idea behind this model is that the recipient, because they don't have an account, has to be in possession of two things. They have to have the link that was originally mailed as part of sharing, which indicates that they were the intended recipient at the time the sharing event occurred. And then secondarily, they have to be in possession of the email account to which the link was originally sent at the moment they attempt to access the content. And that guarantees that they got the link because you intended them to get the link, and that they're still affiliated with the company that they were affiliated with and still have access to that email address at the moment of access. And from our perspective, that is a very secure model. In fact, it's more secure than what occurs when they create a Microsoft account that they control that isn't affiliated with their company but is affiliated with that email address. So we're really moving to a world in which you know that when your users use this model, the person interacting with the content is the intended recipient.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Any idea of which of these features will be available on-premise at some time?
Yeah, so it depends. The answer depends on the feature. So some of the features are basically available on both the cases, but our approach generally is to bring new features to the cloud, and because that's where we can iterate faster and we can ship faster and get feedback. And sometimes that's the carrot we need to give users to move to the cloud. Some features like the new sharing dialog, et cetera, will come to on-prem as well, because those types of things we want to do for the end user experience. But yeah, generally, we take it on a case-by-case basis. Some policies actually require, for example, Azure AD, and so we can't even have them on premises.
Thank you.
On the admin center, are any of those settings or changes there logged in the audit log?
Yes, so all of our policy changes are in the audit log. So it tells, for example, yesterday actually in one of the sessions, one of the demoers said, I hadn't set this policy, who set it? And so we were actually able to look at the audit log and say, this particular account is the one who changed the policy at this time from this location. And we were able to debug that. So yeah, all of those policy changes actually logged are available in the audit logs.
Okay, I can't find that. Could I talk with somebody afterwards for 2 minutes?
Sure, you can find
Thanks.
us afterwards, yeah. All right, thank you so much.